Welcome back. If we just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channels Television live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari addresses a joint National Assembly, presents 6.08 trillion naira budget for 2016. The president places priority on job creation, infrastructure development and social welfare. Reactions pour in on the 2016 budget. While some see it as a budget of hope, PDP says the figures are unrealistic. And Iraqi government forces advance into the center of Ramadi. Do remember that all our top stories can be found on our website, channelstv.com, and on youtube.com/channelsweb. You could also visit m.channelstv.com to view us live on your mobile device and download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows phones from their respective stores. We also urge you to please interact with the Channels Eyewitness feature in the Channels TV app on the Android, iOS and Windows platforms. If you have pictures or videos you'd like to share with us, please tap the application on your device, swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu and follow the instructions. Let's bring you some of the pictures sent into our Eyewitness portal, beginning with this one, showing a thick smoke, on the seashore. Our Eyewitness reporter says a fire was from oil vandals' boats burnt by men of the Nigerian Navy on patrol in Port Harcourt, the River State capital. He wants the government to do more to check the activities of these criminals. Next is one showing kegs on the street. Our Eyewitness reporter says these jerry cans were being used to haul petrol in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital. He says this has had a negative impact on the economy with its associated risks. Finally is this picture showing two beggars on the busy Nnamdi Azikiwe Expressway in Wuse to Abuja. Our Eyewitness reporter says these beggars are usually seen weaving through traffic, begging for alms. Thanks for sending in those pictures. You know that you too can be an Eyewitness reporter for Channels Television. And now to the good news. Channels Television has emerged the best TV station for the year, a record 10th time. The station clinched the award at the 23rd Nigeria Media Merit Awards held in Lagos. This year's award makes it the 6th time in a row that the station is winning since 2010. Channels Television previously won in 2001, 2003, 2004 and 2008. On that winning note, I hand over to our colleague in Abuja, Gloria Mezoke, who has more on the news at 10. Hi, Gloria, and congratulations.
Well, the nation's capital, more reactions on the president's budget presentation. This time, the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, describes the financial plan as a fraud. The PDP, in a statement by its spokesperson, Chief Olisametu, describes the federal budget as presented by President Muhammadu Buhari as a grand plan to mortgage the future of Nigeria. The opposition party is querying the proposed plan of the federal government to borrow 2 trillion naira, which it considers the biggest in the history of the nation and the height of recklessness. Chief Metu, in the statement, expresses fears over the implication of huge borrowing to fund the planned welfare programs, which, according to the party, is a means to satisfy partisan interests and settle huge campaign debts. The PDP goes on to say that the 2016 budget, which is the first major economic policy outing of this government, is completely unrealistic. Clearly, the 2016 budget is focusing on job creation for the teeming unemployed youths in the country, particularly graduates from tertiary institutions. The budget also focuses on infrastructure development and security. In our next report, our business editor, Bosin Omofaye, gives us a budget breakdown for 2016.
Today's 2016 budget presentation by President Muhammadu Buhari to the National Assembly had been speculated about for a few months. The budget comes at a time of strong global and domestic headwinds for Africa's most populated and largest economy.
I stand before you today promising that we will secure our country, rebuild our economy, and make the Federal Republic of Nigeria stronger than it has ever been.
President Buhari calls the record 6.08 trillion naira appropriations plan a budget of change, while economist and financial analyst Mr. Bismarck Rewane calls it a reflating budget. But whatever the budget 2016 is called, President Buhari and his team would have to deliver on key parameters: significant job creation, infrastructure provision, and special interventions as contained in his electoral promises earlier in the year. In order to deliver on this tripod, the Buhari's administration promises tax reductions for small businesses to encourage more hirings, borrowings to finance strategic infrastructure, spend more on education and attract graduates, and stimulate agriculture and solid minerals with subsidized funding.
I wish to reiterate that a well-crafted budget is not an end in itself. The real meat of a budget is in its implementation. While the National Assembly will endeavor to diligently scrutinize and pass the budget in good time to facilitate early commencement of its implementation. In this regard, and in order to aid Mr. President to execute and implement the budget, it may be necessary to take a second look at the constitutional definition of financial year.
Bosin Amafaye, Channel Television News.
To other stories, the lawyer to the embattled leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, was asked the Department of State Services to obey the order of the court, releasing him on bail unconditionally. Reacting to the 6 counts charge preferred against his client, Mr. Vincent Obete says the charges, regardless of the orders of the court, still subsists and should be implemented to the letter. According to him, the charges are still being studied even as they continue to work towards the release of his client, who is presumed innocent until proven otherwise.
On the 17th, we did all the paperwork and then filed the paperwork and served the DSS. It was at the point of serving them that I was confronted with another charge. You know, they served my client with a 6-count charge, not 1-count charge. 6-count charges with the head charge as treasonable felony. So that's where we are now. Our attitude to it is that we are studying the charge because they are at liberty to prefer higher or lower charge depending on the information that is available to them. But we are studying the charge to look at it critically. However, we also of the view that the order of the court of 16th December is still subsisting. That in as much as we subject ourselves to the trial whenever it's going to come up, the authority should also obey court orders. I keep saying that at the point we are now is the preliminary stage.
Well, that's it on the nation's, from the nation's capital. On a lighter note, congratulations, Amarachi.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I was congratulating you much earlier. I guess you couldn't hear me. Congratulations to you too. Well, back here in Lagos, in other news for most businesses, 2015 is a year with remarkable events, but comes with the zigzag effect of the economy on enterprises. The election year, which produced a historic change of guards in power, created that void the business owners cannot stop talking about, while other macroeconomic variables also impacted their investment decisions. The benefits are being deferred until 2016. Joining me now to discuss a review of the budget 2016 as presented to the National Assembly by President Muhammadu Buhari is economic policy analyst Mr. Opeyemi Agbaji. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10.
Pleasure, thank you.
Well, the budget, 6.08 trillion naira, the President presented to the National Assembly today. It's the highest we've had so far. That's about 15% higher than that of 2015. What do you make of this?
It's an ambitious budget, no doubt. There's an economic logic behind being ambitious, being reflationary in the circumstances. The economy is going down. It's prudent. It's wise to act in a counter-cyclical manner. The growth rate has declined from 6% to 3%. And therefore, there's logic, rationale behind acting aggressively to prevent a downward slide, a recession, or close to a recession. The key challenge, however, will be how the budget will be funded. There's a 2.2 trillion naira deficit that must be funded for that budget to be realistic.
Wow. And the major focus of this budget is job creation. Now, some have wondered if that should not be left to the private sector.
Well, it should be the job of both. The fact that there is a lot of infrastructure spending, allocations to works, to transport, is helpful towards job creation, construction activity, all of that. But yes, there is also a role for the private sector in creating jobs. Quite frankly, in the last 6 months, the private sector has shared jobs in large numbers across sectors. Construction, hotels and restaurants, oil and gas, financial services. So we need to complement government stimulus, which this budget represents, with conducive conditions for private sector job growth. I miss that manufacturing, which has suffered from the policies around FX over the last 6 months. So we need to look at those issues so that it's not just government trying to stimulate employment through its budget fiscal policy, but the conditions for the private sector are also enabling of jobs and growth.
Is it realistic that the government should want to provide jobs for over 500,000 young people?
It depends. It's not unrealistic. If you're willing to find the resources, and that 500,000 was in relation to teachers, I'm told, from what the president said. I do agree there's an emergency in education. My priority is a focus on quality, which teachers are central to. So if we do it right, if we've done the right diagnosis, it may be useful. However, like I said, it's more important that we allow the bigger economy, which creates the more jobs, in millions and millions, the private sector economy, to also function so that manufacturing, construction, hotels, all of those can create jobs as well.
And 30% of that budget focuses on capital expenditure. That's a hike of 15% that we had in 2015. Recurrence is now 70%. So how does this impact on infrastructure deficit?
We have always argued, I have always argued that the structure in which we spend the overwhelming majority, almost all of our budget on recurrent spending, is discriminatory towards the poor. One, because the current expenditure is mere monies you pay to civil servants, you pay on running government, which is to the benefit of the elite. It is the services you build, like schools and roads, that the whole population uses. And it's of course, it's not also the current is consumption. And therefore, it makes sense. We've always, I think for the last 4 years, government has recognized that imperative. However, it has not been achieved for various reasons. So right now, you would find that capital component of the budget can only be funded if we realize that funding gap, the deficit, and we raise that 2.2 million, which the president says will be raised from private, local and international sources. So, but it's a good move on the face of it.
Mr. Okoyemi Agbaje, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. And when the News at 10 returns, Aero responds to claims of misconduct during the disembarkment of its passengers at the airport in Bauchi State. Please join us again.